let's talk about what we're going to do today. Okay, I want to ask you a few little questions, okay? Who's the closest friend you've got? Who's someone you feel really safe with, that you feel like you can just relax around, who gives you energy, makes you feel better when you're around? You know, we all have people like that, don't we? We all have people who make us feel just really strong and really happy when we're around them, don't we? Yes, Luke, you're one of those people for me. That's absolutely right. But who is that person? And did that happen automatically? Did it suddenly happen like that? Or did it happen over time? What had to happen for that relationship to build? Was it actually meeting up? Was it spending time together? And particularly, what happens when you don't have time with those friends? For many of us, actually, over lockdown, that's been something we've maybe struggled with a little bit, in that not having time to see people. But actually, those relationships are really important. And I just want to explain a little bit about maybe a friendship that I've got. Like, one of my closest friends, his name is John. He used to go to our church a little while ago, but we became Christians at the same time, or kind of around the same year, and we became really good friends. And we built on that friendship by doing everything together. So we went out, had food together, loads, all sorts, curries, everything. We went on trips together. We would talk together. We'd have so many different situations, and even we'd have hard times together. So I remember, like, for example, there was a time when John had a breakup with a girl he was seeing, and he was really overcome, really sad. And I just was there to listen. Just to listen and to be there and to talk things through. Equally, other times when I know that I got a job and I got a placement somewhere, he was really excited, so I could just talk to him about that, and he'd be the first person I'd call when something was going well, and the first person I'd call when something was going bad. He was a really, really good friend. And actually, it's really hard now that he's somewhere else, actually, because we don't see each other as much, but we still make an effort to maintain that friendship. So I'm going to ask again, who's that closest friend you've got? So again, with friendships, it's all about our relationship and building that time. We don't have those closest friends, do we, without having time in. Is that the case, guys? Your closest friends, have you spent a lot of time with them, or have you spent not much time with them at all? Probably a lot of time, is that right? Yeah, exactly. Actually, the reason I'm talking about this is because it's the exact same with Jesus. You know, for many of us, for many of you guys, I mean, obviously I didn't grow up in a Christian family, but I know you guys will have. And so much of what we learn up to a point is through our parents, you know, who lead us, who pray with us, who teach us the Bible, which is great. But as you guys all know, there's a point, and maybe for a lot of you guys, you've known that point, you can think back, and there was a point where you think, actually, you know, I've started building this relationship with God that's not just about me and my parents and their relationship, but it's actually about my relationship to God one-on-one, you know? And just like in any good friendship, we need to have time with God if we're going to be close, if we're going to be His children, and if we're going to know Him the way that He's calling us to do, you know? So I want to, again, ask you another question. How is your time with God at the moment? How do you spend time with God? What do you think of when I say spend time with God? You know, for many people, it's like, oh, I'll sit down and read my Bible. For many, it might be just time in prayer or going for a walk or doing worship. And they think, oh, well, you know, if I look at my time with God, then maybe I'm not doing so well with that. I want to assure you guys for a second, just that don't worry. If you don't feel like your time with God is going perfectly, throughout your life you probably will feel that way. I know I feel that way quite a lot. I'm very up and down with my time. Some days I get loads of time with God and I feel like I'm just walking on air. And other days I'm so busy that I just let that time slip away, and then I just feel really naff, and I wonder why. It's really strange, isn't it? But what I want to say is that I don't want you guys to ever limit yourselves to your time with God being one thing or another. Because if, for example, you don't get up every morning at 6 and pray for an hour, does that mean that you're bad at having time with God? No, not at all. Never feel that pressure. And I just want people to think a little bit more about the relationship with God as a relationship with a really, really close friend. The fact is, you might go out for a walk with your friend, especially over lockdown, because that seems to be all we're allowed to do. You might have food with a friend. You might sit down and have a meal. What about singing? I mean, me and my mates, when I don't know if we kind of sang or used all the perfect words and stuff, but we would love listening to music together. And actually, what about times where you sit and you can just listen to good music, even just like we did just there, time where you can just reach out and listen to good truth about God. Ultimately, guys, what I want you to know is that spending time with God doesn't have to look exactly the same as it does for everyone else, but it does matter. Spending time with God is not a question of, will I spend time with God today? The question is, how am I going to spend time with God today? What are the times in your past where you've really enjoyed time with God, you felt closest? Has it been through worship? Has it been through listening to fantastic worship songs? Has it been simply going out and going for a walk and praying? Maybe you're in the car and you're just praying in your head on the way somewhere. Maybe you're on the way to school. And obviously, I know you guys are really excited, or some of you guys are at least, that we're going to be heading back to school very soon. What about that? Maybe it's times at church or even in youth where you feel close. The key thing is that spending regular time with God is so important for our relationship with God, because if we don't spend time with God, we will feel distant and we will suffer for it. I'm just going to finish by sharing a little story just about me. So I would hold my hands up easily and say that I'm not always good at making the right time for God, which is really bad, and I really feel the effects. Sometimes I get discouraged when that happens, because often I allow myself to get too busy, and then that puts out time for God. Well, the other day, actually last week, maybe even this week actually, I'd had a few days where I hadn't spoken to God much. I'd said a few little prayers here and there, but I hadn't really had any quality time. And I was feeling quite discouraged. There was a few things going on with work. I had a job cancel, which is quite hard for me. And so I said to Abby, do you know what, I'm just going to go out for a walk. I'm just going to go out for a walk. And I went out for a walk. I went out for, I think, about 45 minutes or so in the end. And I just let out to God what I was feeling. I let out some of my sadness. I got a bit upset, but in a good way, because I had some stuff in there that I just needed to let out. And it was a great time for me just to talk to God, to be open about how I felt, because we can trust God with everything, can't we? God's big and He is wonderful and He's great, but He's also our dad. He loves us, and so we can always talk to God about anything. There's never a time He's not listening and not caring for us. And actually, having had that time, I just felt absolutely lifted. Do you know why? It's because I'd spent time with my closest friend. When we spend time with God, we come closer to Him, and we receive peace, we receive joy, we receive life from God. So my big question to you right now is not, are you going to spend time with God tomorrow, next day? My question is, how are you going to spend time with God? What way do you best connect with God?